from Fremont, Irvington district. Yeah, hell yeah, it is. Like being from NorCal, man, it's hard. First off, like being Chicano in general, it's hard, you know, just trying to get into the industry or do whatever you do. But shit, once you start cutting that in half and cutting that in half, it gets harder and harder down the line. So, you know, I would imagine it's probably hard enough for dudes out in SoCal who live like by LA, and once you know, get into all that other shit like, oh, well, he's from Northern California or he's from Arizona or Texas, gets a little harder down the line. So you start chopping all that, you know, like kind of those tickets you might have down the road, you start cutting it in half and shit, man, and yeah, it goes away real quick. So a lot of people don't fuck with me because I'm from NorCal. Some people do, they don't trip. I got a lot of followers and shit from Southern California, San Diego, LA, and all that shit. So, you know, it just really depends. Shit, let's see. I started filming, well, it's crazy. I got my first camera maybe around like 2000, 1999, something like that. I used to like slang in the hood and shit like that, and I was running around the streets doing hella shit, you know, things I wasn't supposed to, getting in trouble, things like that. But I used to be out there slanging, and one of my homies came up to me one day like, hey, I got this camera for sale, you want to trade it? So I traded him, you know, a little bit of this and a little bit of that and some cash, and got my first camera. And from there it was on, like shit, I was running around area, I was riding my bike filming, and you know, going over to the homies' pads and shit like that, just filming everybody kicking back. And after a while, I just started compiling like footage and started seeing, you know, shit, I got a lot of footage here. And my homeboy Bugsy, he was doing his video Cali Thuggin', like he was just starting to film and do all his shit, put his shit together. He had like trailers and things. And so I seen what he was doing, was like, man, I could do this too. You know, I've been filming for years, started putting my shit together, and I started on my first DVD from the streets to the studio. And after that, you know, I got into it, released another one, Barrio2Barrio. I just kind of wanted to structure it a little bit better than I did on the first one. You know, you should always try to be better than you did the last time. So from the streets to the studio is kind of like a compilation of videos and just places we went to and shit like that. It wasn't like a real documentary, but the second one, Barrio2Barrio, I tried to structure it as more of like a documentary and shit. We traveled to places, had more of a storyline about rap in the streets and things like that. So yeah, I started doing that around like maybe about 2000 and shit, and been filming ever since. And shit, I got hundreds of hours of footage, man. I got shit from like old school hyphy era days, and you know, just a lot of shows we used to do back in the day, Speedy Loke days and things like that. So been doing it for a long time. Well, I'm from Irvington. Like the way it is it's like three cities that are kind of next to each other. It's Fremont, Newark, and Dakota. They call them the Tri-Cities. And then you got Hayward that's next to that too. So everybody's next to each other, but they're all little districts. So Dakota's like a district, Irvington's a district. I was from Irvington. And back when I grew up then, man, shit, it was different as a kid, man. Shit, every neighborhood in those little areas was like self-sufficient. So into the 60s, 70s, you know, you had your gas station right there, your fucking movie store, you know, your theater, all the shit you needed. You really didn't have to leave home. It's kind of like how they have in, like, you know, when you go out to the valley and they have the little country towns. That's how it used to be, where, you know, growing up on our shit, you had to drive to the next city and shit like that. But man, growing up out there, it was cool. We had our OGs running around the neighborhood, and like all my family was from there. Everybody knew each other. It's, you know, different now. Nobody fucking knows each other and shit like that. All my new neighbors, they come from different countries and shit like that. Nobody knows each other. But yeah, you know, I knew all my neighbors back then. I knew everybody by last name. I could tell my family, hey, I'm gonna be at, you know, the Bacchus pad or the Ortega's pad. So it was a lot different when I grew up then. Everybody was kind of more family oriented. Even the neighbors, they took care of each other's kids and shit like that. All the kids hung out and knew each other. But now it's not like that. All my friends and family, they live out in the valley because they can't afford the bay and shit no more. So it's a lot different growing up in my neighborhood back then. So man, I've been harassed by the police shit a lot, man. Shit, you know, just your basic being a Chicano and walking around looking like me, bald head, and you might be wearing Dickies and Vans and some Cortez or something like that. They're gonna pull you over real quick. But fuck, I've been pulled over for nothing, man, just because I looked the part. They pulled me over in my car, searched my shit, told me I fit the description. I don't know how many times they pulled me. I remember one time I got pulled over and they started calling me out by my name. Hey, Soups, get out the car, you know, fucking stand over here, take 10 steps and do all this stupid shit. Telling me I fit the description, and I wasn't even on that street, man. But it's shit that's happened my whole life. They used to, when I was a youngster, my uncles, they were always on the run from the cops, but these fools would be locked up in county jail, and the cops would come over my house like, yeah, hey, we heard Hank was out there doing some shit, and we're like, when did you hear this? Yeah, we got a call, he was doing it maybe about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, but he's been in jail for like 4 months. So, you know, harassment ain't nothing new. They always say you fit the description and shit like that. I've been going through it for years, but, you know, ain't nothing different. I got a liquor store by my house that's like 2 minutes away, and I gotta walk that walk fucking anytime I want to get something, and I can get harassed any day of the week if motherfuckers are feeling bored. So it ain't nothing new. I got plenty of experiences like that myself and my family, my friends. So it's something you kind of got used to. You just got to try to look out for it ahead of time. Shit, go in stores quicker than you have to. So I'm not really a fan of like that appropriation shit they're doing. I mean, you know, a lot of dude, like I said, I got a liquor store. It's like 2 minutes away from my house, and when I walk that 2 minutes, I might be wearing Cortez and some Dickies, and the cop's gonna see me, pull me over, start fucking with me, asking what neighborhood I'm from, all that shit, man. I gotta go through a laundry list of things that homies like me go through fucking all across the country, you know? You got dudes in LA that gotta deal with that shit, dudes in San Ho, dudes fucking up and down the map, fucking New Mexico, Texas. So I'm not a fan when people try to dress up and emulate the shit we've been living and do it for like fashion trends. Like, hey, we want to do photo shoots and we're Chicanos, so we want to dress like Chicanos dressed in fucking 1995 and 1984 and shit like that. Like, I'm not a fan of it, man, because even in my days when we dressed like the homies, we dressed like the homies of my era. We didn't dress like the dudes in the 80s with the, you know, tighter fucking Levi jeans and shit like that. We dressed like we did. We had Ben Davis that were hella baggy. We wore fucking Nikes. It could have been Cortez, or it could have been some Grant Hills, or, you know, my homies were wearing Fila's and Nike Up Tempos. They had all the latest fucking shoes, so it was a little different. We didn't have big ass pumps. We had smaller hair, slicked back a little bit. So every generation changed, but we didn't try to act like the dudes before us. We had our own shit going on. I feel like these people just want to, you know, kind of glamorize what's going on back then. Like, oh, I seen this picture of dudes, you know, in this pose, all, you know, shaking hands and things like that. But man, you had to earn that shit. If you wanted to be in that picture with them homies, you had to earn your fucking way in there. Now it's like you don't have to have anybody co-sign for you. You could just be who you want. You know, create your fucking own image on Instagram, you know, your hashtag and all that shit. So I'm not a fan of it. People that don't have a hood, or they kind of tell you, yeah, I dress like this for the aesthetics, and I'm just into Chicano culture, and I'm just trying to keep it alive. Well, it's been alive for years, man. You just chose to fucking not be around, or you couldn't go kick it with the people who look like that. So I'm not a fan of it, man. I ain't fucking trying to kick it with people like that. So nah, whether they're fucking, you know, white dudes that want to do that, or Mexican chicks or Mexican dudes, it's just fuck that. If you didn't earn your way into it, don't try to pretend. So not a fan of the fairy tales. Man, it's rough, bro. Like, long time ago, it used to be in every city in the Bay Area, they kind of had their areas. So, you know, like, for example, where we're from, you had the nice area of town, and then you had the part of town where it was just blue-collar living, had other areas that people, you made a couple bucks, you moved out that way and did shit like that. But now, the poor side of town is the valley. If you live in the Bay, you got money. So motherfuckers are coming from all over the world just trying to move out here, push people out to the valley, and it's kind of fucking up, you know, things that have happened in neighborhoods for a long time. There have been these places like A Street and fucking, you know, Irvington and Fremont, Decoto and Union City. They've been around for generations, but they're starting to get pushed out now because of the prices. So same thing's happening in the Mission. You had all this culture there for years, and now all those people that lived there for generations, they can't afford to live there no more. They got to move out to the valley. So, you know, I was just talking about somebody with this earlier. They got that carnaval every year, and now it's like there ain't even any Latinos that are going to be able to afford to live in the Mission. So how the fuck can you have carnaval? Like, they're going to be pretty much just entertaining the local yuppies and the techies out there. Like, hey, we got carnaval this year to show, hey, there's Latins in San Francisco, and fucking truly the Latins can't even afford to live out there. It's a bunch of people from fucking different parts of the world, techies and shit like that, working at Facebook and Google and Yahoo, and, you know, trying to live out their youngster dreams and little hipster lifestyles and shit like that. So yeah, it's not a good scene. I feel bad for those people in San Francisco and Oakland and like the bigger cities who have to deal with that shit, because you don't get a lot of people trying to go gentrify Modesto or fucking Fresno. You know what I mean? You ain't fucking, nobody's itching to move out where it's hot as fuck. They want to be right here by the water and do all this fun shit and go to A's games and Giants games and Pride and fucking, you know, that time of the year they want to be able to do hella shit. So you kind of notice that, and I feel bad for the fucking Latinos in the big cities. And it ain't just happening here in fucking like San Francisco and Oakland. It's happening in LA, New York, fucking Denver, Colorado, like all these places, man. They're getting gentrified left and right, and I feel bad for those motherfuckers, man. Man, I didn't. I mean, Speedy and them probably seen it. I'd be chilling with those dudes like back in their apartments back in the day in Hayward, and you know, those guys were doing shows back then. They had fucking hella fans way the fuck back then, just the start of the internet. I mean, they probably seen it. I didn't really know. I was just along for the ride, trying to have fun, trying to document shit. I like fucking history and shit like that, so I like documenting, taking pictures and videos and things like that, so I could show people in 10 years, look, this is how it used to be. So I didn't think it was gonna blow up, but it has, man. Like, there's cats in Germany, Japan that have been bumping that shit. I sold CDs out to Australia and fucking places all over the world, and people show us love, man. It's always been cool. We had concerts and shit in Idaho and Kansas and fuck Utah, been out to Washington and Oregon, and man, it's hella cool. I was just out in Santa Rosa chilling right now, just eating at some little spot out there. Some dude drove by. I was like, hey man, I follow you. Shit, I didn't even think that was you. I had to look on your Instagram. I seen you're in my city, so I was shopping it up with that homie for like a half hour at the corner store just randomly. So it's cool, man. I get a lot of followers. Motherfuckers show love and support. Some people hate me, but a lot of cats support, and it's all good, man. I fucking appreciate that shit. Yeah, shit, I always feel like that, man. Shit, growing up, you know, my family be speaking Spanish just so we didn't know what they were saying. Back in their days, it wasn't cool to be Mexican and speak Spanish or to have an accent. There wasn't no fucking Taco Tuesdays and none of that shit. Like, the way they lived was they got made fun of for eating rice and beans on lunch and shit like that, taking tacos, you know, to school. It wasn't a cool thing, man, so they tried to do as much as they could to kind of make us be American. So we grew up with that shit, trying to be American, and we lost our Spanish and all that shit. And you know, I go talk with dudes in my neighborhood who were from Mexico, and you know, you kind of hear this shit, oh, you ain't Mexican, you ain't from Mexico, and then, you know, people here don't accept you, like, fuck, you're fucking Mexican, you ain't American. You're like, dude, I live between these two worlds, and it's hard as fuck. Like, that's why when I say I'm a Chicano, like, it's kind of, you're living on between both of those worlds, you know. One doesn't accept you, the other doesn't accept you, and you just kind of find the in-between. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's an experience that it's really hard to tell people, you know, that, yeah, what do you mean they don't accept you because you're Mexican? Yeah, you're Mexican, your fucking name is Jesus, and your last name fucking is Spanish and this and that. Well, people from Mexico think I'm a pocho, and people from here think I'm a fucking wetback. So yeah, it's like you walk on shit, you walk on eggshells with this shit all day, man. It's hard, man, juggling between both worlds. But yeah, I've experienced a lot with that shit. Man, we don't get as much attention as like there's this thing they call like the black-white binary. If you ever look into it, it's kind of talks like about culture and shit, that people only see that, you know, black and white, one, you know, 0 and 1, that's all they see. Anything in between that's kind of hard if you're Asian or you're Latin. And I believe it, but it's really about regions. Like, people, Chicanos can't really blow up because like a Puerto Rican dude on the East Coast ain't really gonna feel us, you know what I mean? A Cuban dude in Miami, he ain't gonna feel what's going on. It's the same reason that everything's regional. Like, Cesar Chavez isn't big on the East Coast, he's big on the West Coast because he was fighting for Mexicans and Chicanos out here. Like, Puerto Ricans, that wasn't really their fight. They had their own struggles out there. So it's kind of hard to put Latinos in general into one bowl. You can't really do it. You can't, like, the way you could say with white people or black people, like, a black guy in fucking the UK can support a black guy in America, and still you feel like he's supporting, you know, like an African, you know, like somebody that's black or African American, whatever they're gonna identify with. So somebody in Mexico is really not gonna try to support somebody in Puerto Rico, and somebody in fucking living in the Bronx, New York isn't gonna try to fucking support somebody living in fucking East LA. So you run into a lot of that shit. It's hard for us to blow up, and we can never get past that. So yeah, I don't know, man. If somebody like Immortal Technique, or you get one of those dudes that find an in-between that might be able to blow up, fuck, hopefully we get something going on. But yeah, it's just hard walking that line within, like, being a Latino entertainer, or whatever your shit is, a Latino artist or whatever. But yeah, man, I'm still trying to find out how to do it. Hopefully I find one day. Shout outs, man. Shit, just want to shout out to all the people that supporting. Shit, my kids, they're out there. They're probably watching. Maybe my boy, he's always on YouTube watching videos, so he might see me on here. What's up, boy? Yeah, all my homies out there, my old school partners, shit, R.I.P. Speedy, R.I.P. Woody, shit, shout out to Tito and Bugsy and everybody, you know, my partners, all my Irvington homeboys, shit, everybody I seen back in the days doing it now. Man, much love to everybody. Big Oso, he's one of the cats I've been doing it with since way back too. And yeah, man, just, you know, hit up the hashtag Barrio2Barrio. I put that Barrio Historian one together for you guys, so you guys got some history to read and shit when you're bored. Maybe you got a term paper to do one day. You got a little bit of research and you can go through. So check out the Barrio Historian hashtag Barrio2Barrio. Yeah, hit me up, Barrio2Barrio, man. Barrio2Barrio.com. Got all kinds of shit for sale too. So yeah, let me know.